Hey, Tony here. Welcome back. This lesson is going to be strictly devoted on setting up the restaurant and talking with the restaurant owner and finding someone to give away the magnets to their customers. So, first question is which restaurants? I don't really know how to judge a restaurant um, on how well the ad sales are going to be until I get into it. So, I'm pretty open minded about which restaurants I talk to. I've done magnets for some white tablecloth high end restaurants, and I've also done them for some real dumps. And the ad sales were great on both of them. The only thing that I kind of look for is do they do takeout? And most restaurants do. I don't typically do magnets for restaurants that have drive-throughs. I've done a couple of these and they turned out okay, but generally if the restaurant has a drive-through, they don't really have a lot of call-in takeout business, but there are a few exceptions to this. Are they a local restaurant or a chain restaurant? I personally only do business with locally owned what I call mom and pop type restaurants. Now, we've done magnets for some terrific chains. We've done them for Mellow Mushroom, Hooters, Applebee's, Chili's, uh, some really good popular chains. But even so, I like to deal with the local mom and pops for one simple reason: you get better referrals. The chains have managers. The managers are not the ones that set up the bank accounts and hire the contractors and take care of the pest control and all that stuff. So I think you get much better referrals from the local mom and pop restaurants. My suggestion in the beginning is always just to start with a restaurant right in your own neighborhood, probably one that you already frequent. Maybe you already know the owner. Show the magnet. Say, hey, I'm thinking about starting this new business. Is this something that you'd like to have to give out to your customers if there's no cost to you? So just use what's handy. Make it easy. Don't try to swim upstream with this. There are restaurants right now that you eat at that would love to have these magnets at no cost to them. So here's how I typically approach and set up the restaurant. I never ever go in and say that I want to talk to the owner. That's just a red flag. The employee will go in the back and say, hey, there's a guy here who wants to talk to the owner, and the owner will say, tell him I'm not in. That's just what they do. They think you're a salesperson, and just all kinds of red flags fly up. So I want to approach whoever's the first person that greets me in the restaurant and make them a fan of the magnet. So I walk in waving it like a flag and say, hey, we give away these free takeout magnets to restaurants like yours. Who would I talk to see if you'd like to have some to give away? And typically they'll say, well, that's Joe. He's the owner. And I'll say, great, is Joe in? And Joe will come out and I'll say, hey, Joe, I was telling your cashier that we provide 1,000 of these full color takeout magnetic menus just like this one to you at no cost whatsoever. We let local businesses sponsor the magnets, so that's how we can give them to you at no charge. And of course, we customize it with your logo and any other information that you'd like. Most people put at least some of their menu items on there. And all we ask of you is that you just distribute them to your customers so the sponsors can get good value. Is that fair with you? And most of the time, yeah, they may have a question or two, but most of the time they're like, yeah, sure, of course that's fair. I'd love to have some. So once they tell you that they're going to give out the magnets, this is the magic part. This is the conversation that I have to get the referrals without even asking for referrals. I start out by telling them who we're not going to put on the magnet, and that conversation usually goes something like this. Once they agree that they're going to give out the magnets, I just say, great. Now, obviously, let me explain. We wouldn't put any other restaurants on the magnet. We wouldn't let restaurants advertise. That wouldn't be fair to you. But we also make sure that these are what I call kid friendly. We don't put ads on there that make kids ask questions. So We don't promote any businesses that all of your customers wouldn't be good with. No adult themed businesses, bail bonds, liquor stores, things like that. And by the way, Joe, is there anybody else in particular that you wouldn't want to see on the magnet? Now, I think this is an important question because you never know who in town this person doesn't like. Their ex-wife may have just opened up a jewelry store down the street, and if that's the case, then you certainly want to know that. But usually they'll just say, no, anybody else is fine. And then this is where you get the referrals. Once you tell them who's not going to be on the magnet, say, great, now let's talk about who you would like to see. Who do you bank with? Who takes care of your insurance? Who does your pest control? Do you have a realtor? Where do you buy cars? When your car breaks, who fixes it? Where do you get tires? Where do you buy your wife jewelry? And you just go through this process of questions, and before you know it, you've got 12 or 15 referrals. So this is a copy of our location agreement. This is what the restaurant owner signs that says that he's going to give out the magnets. And you can see that the contract is only 2 lines. It says, I understand I'll receive 1,000 takeout menu magnets at no cost to me, and that I agree to make the magnets available to my customers, and that this agreement transfers with the sale of the establishment. And of course, there's lines for the restaurant name and all of their information and any notes that you want to make. But below that, there's a list of recommended sponsors. Now, this is something that you just use to have the conversation I was just talking about. And you can just go down the list. Hey, who handles your insurance? Do you use a landscaper or a nursery close by? What contractors have you used? Plumbers, electricians? Just go down this list and ask the restaurant owner who they do business with. And it's just a real easy way to have a conversation and get referrals without being intrusive, by the way. So that's it. That's all there is to it. It's not complicated. You're giving something away for free. So their payment, if you want to look at it that way, is the referrals. And honestly, if they're not willing to give you at least a handful of referrals to get started, you shouldn't give them the magnets, because these are, this is an expensive product. If they went out and did this themselves, it would cost them thousands of dollars to have these printed. So you're giving them something of real value, and they need to give you a little something back. Even though they're not writing you a check, they need to help you find out who the advertisers are. So that's how you set up the restaurant. Simple, easy, nothing complicated about it. And I'll see you in the next lesson where we talk about how to get the advertisers. See you then.